A viable side lane threat, they might have an edge.
Here we go, guys. Game number 1. Let's jump into it. All right, here we go. Telecom War to start us off today. Match number 5, right in the middle of the week. As Faker jumps back onto Galio, as he's getting really aggressive here. He might get a little bit zoned away from this one. Will he have to flash? Looks pretty likely, but Keria does a good job of blocking, and that will be very nicely done. So he's going to get in there. Pretty interesting to see them just go straight into aiming on the Zeri. Zeri definitely one of these champs that looks a little bit harder to carry on some, as compared to some of the other picks we have seen. And KT in the past has definitely been an aiming-centric team, but that's not necessarily the case. Like, they don't have to do that, especially with some of the additions in the top side of the map with their new players.
So that level 1 does mean that Faker has used his Ghost, and also that now an Invade is coming through. They did spot him there, though. That's big. Question mark pings coming through, and they run the risk of getting sandwiched here. They will be stuck in, yeah, they have vision. and they're gonna abandon ship, and I think that was a good call. If you actually get caught there, you'll be in deep trouble. As Kiin forcing Zeus to start with the hop. He will be able to get out, but might make his early laning a little bit weaker. Also going for the fleet there. Oner also going for PTA, so looking to have an early impact this game. Trying to really put the pressure on and look for a couple of early ganks. And overall, I'm liking the confidence with KT is approaching here. Early invade, early aggression, forcing sums out, trying to look for angles, to put in T1 off their game immediately. Considering the fact that how good T1 looked when they were allowed to play their game, I think is a great call.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. I think that if you're going up against what looks to be the best team in the league right now, you could make an argument for D+, but again, it's extremely early.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We couldn't possibly know.
When the two teams go head-to-head, we will we'll be very happy. It'll be very exciting, but also we will get a better look at who is better at this point in time, just straight up. So yeah, it's better to actually fight fire with fire, I think, in League of Legends, rather than just sitting back and letting the great team just kind of do whatever they want. As BDD might get ganked here. Oner level 3. Cleared the bottom side of his jungle, wrapped around. Didn't clear anything else, but BDD is playing relatively respectfully, and he will not get ganked.
Yeah, problem there is... Zeus does have a big wave, so looks like he will be fine. Wave shoving away from him as well, so wouldn't be surprised as Oner at the very least makes his presence known, trying to ensure that Zeus can shove out without getting in trouble, without getting ganked by Cuzz. But yeah, the power of Scatter the Weak when you're a Vi is unfortunately not something that you can really deal with. As yeah, this Jax counter pick, I don't pretend to acquire. I know you're not a Jax enjoyer in general.
No,
but
yeah, I just actually hate it.
Picking Jax when we've already seen that matchup be tough for Rascal, which I definitely think is one of our greater top laners that we have in the LCK. Into Kana is one thing. Then picking it yourself when, I'd say without a shadow of a doubt, our best Gnar picks it, is brave. And we'll see whether it works out, because of course the downside of Jax is if you don't have any pressure, it really does slightly worse as, yeah. Again, I know Zeri Lulu is doing really poorly right now, but I do think the matchups were also important for a lot of those games, yeah. And we should hold off judgment, although I do also think they'll have a tough time in this game as Oner. He says hello, I guess.
Yeah, he's sticking around. He's on the map still. He hasn't gone back. Looks like he's just going to clear bot side again. Because, note, he cleared his bottom side, then he went around to the left side of mid, and then he cleared the rest of his camps, including the Scuttle Crab, and then looked for another gank. So his stuff is actually spawning here, as this is just not a happy place as a Jax.
It's so well done by Zeus as well, because by playing this aggressive, he's forcing Kiin to trade back into him. and it becomes harder for Kiin to CS, but also Kiin took a ton of damage from the wave there, right? Like Zeus is crashing a big wave, and as a result of Bar going lower and lower, Kiin has to spread his attention between trying to stay alive and trying to deal with the pesky Gnar. The one upside of this is that KT, thanks to their great vision control on the bot side of the map, has now started with the Dragon. I think they should be able to get this with their bot lane having very high priority and able to quickly pick that up. But it is just a singular Drake, and that in of itself isn't really going to offset the already 600 gold lead that we're seeing crystallize here.
Yeah, mostly just in the top lane, to be honest. I mean, it's pretty insane what that can do. It's already 20 CS. I think a wave is crashing at least. And Kiin, as we speak, bottom lane has been pretty even. It looked like, you know, you're talking the priority. There was a slight push from aiming Lehends so far. Very curious to see what this duo can get done. I was kind of losing my mind when we were watching Paze play the Zeri, because he had no cleanse and his Lulu did not build a Mikhail's against an insane amount of CC, and he basically was not able to do anything. So this time around, he's going to have to deal with Gnar and the Galio taunts alongside of a Vi. We'll have to see. A lot. But he does have cleanse in this game. Aiming does.
Which will help, and I do think the matchup is very, very important there, as you pointed out. The barrier, of course, being taken to Lucianami makes sense. But yeah, I was right beside you, getting frustrated as possible dive onto Zeus. I do see T1 already responding. Faker is on his way, but Gnar still a little bit away.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. He is just going to hop away. He's got the Galio to ult in as well, as Gnar and the Galio ultimate is enough to push them away. Meanwhile, bottom side looks like Guma and Keria did have to go for a back, so aiming Lehends able to pick up one plate so far. But yeah, not the most successful gank. I suppose you could say they got Faker's ultimate. And that's about it.
Got an ultimate, which might make a subsequent fight for an objective a little bit easier. But well responded, good read from T1, identifying that Zeus, after his TP back, didn't have control of the wave, to see that over to Kiin, and as a result, KT trying to play around that, trying to get their checks ahead, which, again, I do think is a very important part for them. If he really was continuously falling behind, he would be in trouble. Keria!
Black gone in. They're trying to get on top of this Yuumi, and he will go down. The polymorph was too quick.
Oh, hold up.
Keria had no chance, and now no Gnar, no Galio ultimate, no teleport from Faker. A second kill will go to the side of KT, as he was just an orange buff in that case.
When at first it doesn't work, just try again, says KT. Really well done. So we got two plays on both sides of the map working out. Generally, you're going to try and play to one side of the map, but if you win the 2v2 that hard, it doesn't really matter. So what we had there, as we'll go into the replay shortly, hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about that bot play. But the top play, to me, is perfect, because not only does it actually kill the Gnar this time, but the kill goes to the Jax. The kill goes to Kiin, which might lead to KT having a lot more pressure in the side lane, allowing them to maybe look for a little bit more of a 4-1. Look at that. Look at that UI upgrade.
Whoa.
I really like it.
Zoom in on the Canoniga.
I know. I did, fortunately.
Seems like, you know, Oner was sticking around thinking maybe Cuzz would come directly to the Rift Herald, but he correctly identified that KT were actually just giving it up. They're like, okay, well, you know, we got a big win.
Oh, they don't need to.
We don't need to take the Rift Herald. We don't need to fight over this, so you can have it if you want. So he just takes it.
So key thing here is twofold. One, they know they're about to hit 6, and secondly, by flash polymorphing Keria, he will be unable to go back into Guma, and as a result, just immediately gets blown up. And here, well, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's mini Gnar, and this time T1 does not have the read, or not able to respond. And KT, explosive mid-game here, and if you put the T1 comp on the back foot early on...
They're getting in! They have 6 on Cuzz, but not able to get in range with Lehends for the double knockup. Nice flash away quickly from Oner. But the aggression is so... You can feel it. I mean, you can see it happening. KT are getting in T1's face, and it is working out here. They're going to take away this red buff as well.
Build themselves up a nice lead already. Been a big fan of Cuzz, even though not all of his plays have worked out. He's been continuously working at either matching Oner when he's making plays or trying to set up proactive plays around the map. KT overall looking pretty well orchestrated thus far, able to apply a lot of pressure to T1. Got themselves an early Drake as well. If you can get a 2 Drake lead, there's plenty of great scaling elements on your composition as well. So really great start here to begin with for KT in their first match. Very impressive. Pretty sure Oner stuck or snuck by that ward. But there is Flash and Wild Growth available as well. So I think T1 also identifies that probably not going to happen. Instead, try to grab Prio and maybe make a play towards this dragon. Buy yourself some time.
There was a chance that Cuzz goes immediately to the bot side after taking red, so Oner was also there to potentially cover, just in case there was a gank there. Did successfully kind of skirt around the vision, did not get seen, but it also seemed like KT had a good idea that he would just immediately run back bot, so kind of neutralizes itself, cancels itself out, and we move on. So yes, the Chemtech Drake is available, and the top lane seems like Kiin is having a slightly better time now after getting that first kill. Mid lane still pretty uneventful as it is Syndra versus Galio.
It's more about how they are both able to influence the sides. Do want to reiterate that a single misposition from BDD or aiming, or Lehends even, can mean deep trouble immediately. Oh boy!
Galio's coming on in, and that Syndra doesn't have cleanse. They're going all in onto BDD, and they finally take him out. Took a little bit, and they give the kill to the Sivir.
Thank you for proving my point, T1. As I pointed out, as slight misposition. Didn't think that BDD was mispositioned, neither did he. Clearly, that was the case. Faker, the great instigator, able to immediately get the taunt. I think that BDD thought that maybe he would be able to live through that. Unfortunate. I think if he flashes out of that taunt and he gets underneath his turret, might be fine, but not going to be the case. Important counter kill. Not enough to get T1 out of the hole that KT has put them in, at least for now. And this bot lane pressure also really paying off thus far. We actually see that the ability of Zeri to pretty reliably get damage on top of turrets, especially when combined with a Lulu, has been working out very well. And still, even with that kill on mid, KT about 1k gold ahead and got themselves a second Drake as well.
Looks like it will be Ocean Soul for this one. So I think that's almost definitely the worst out of the three.
It is, yeah.
That they could have gotten here, and pretty unfortunate for KT, especially because they did get the first couple of Drakes. So the rush towards a soul will be less valuable, gives T1 potentially more time. Could even potentially give it up depending on the game state. And T1, you know, if they were to retake over, obviously stacking Infernals or Hex Techs would have been better, but they are behind on Drakes for now. As we'll take another look here on this gank on BDD.
Yeah, just uses the punch. Yeah, this flash, just a split second too late, or not able to get out of range of the Ghost. Very nicely done by Faker there. Sets it up. Team is able to get the plates off the back of it. And yeah, as you pointed out, Mountain, of course, you're playing into dive, so as KT, you'd be very happy with it. And Hextech is self-explanatory, always a very valuable Drake, but Ocean just doesn't really provide you that much. The only one I think benefits from it is Kiin in a late-game side lane scenario where you're able to maybe win longer trades or all-ins against Gnar, but that is basically it. So a bit unfortunate. KT kind of low-rolling there and their 2 Drake advantage. Still valuable, of course, but could have been a lot better. If it's a Mountain Soul, then T1 is forced to basically fight over every single Drake. Because if KT starts stacking resistances and people don't die within a single Vi Galio combo, you're in deep trouble.
It's interesting how this game is going to come along. I think, you know, Kiin eventually will get pretty strong. He's got a nice lead in the side lane, but I think this might come down to, well, I'm going to have to hold that thought as Cuzz is alone. Thought he had some support there from BDD, but BDD just went back mid. But yeah, I think it might come down to mid-jungle versus mid-jungle in terms of making some plays. Like, the bottom side is going to be relatively similar in terms of what they can do in a later stage of the game, but setting up some of the team fights as Vi Galio versus, you know, Syndra and Wukong, it's going to be interesting who can get the front foot in that aspect.
Really nice spread as well for where the plates have gone on KT. The people that you want fed are fed, namely aiming and Kiin. Of course, BDD being fed would still be valuable, but I think within the context of this composition, he's still AP, so in that way you would get a lot of mileage out of your stats, but he will blow people up regardless in terms of late game combos, and just him hitting scatters is going to give him enough value as is. And now you have both your 4-man units, very, very strong, with aiming already accelerated, and a Lulu on his back. And then on the other end, you have your side laner, also with a sizable gold advantage, already on his Divine Sunderer, still caps down as well. But this is where I think T1 really has a leg up on a lot of teams, and this is where KT needs to be the most careful, because this is where they turn the tempo around, and as I pointed out, here they go.
Yeah, it's going to be on the hunt for something. Here comes Kiin, and Oner goes behind the turret, and they do not get the turret. 40 health on this mid tier 1.
That's very sad.
At least. Now Guma does not have on the hunt. He does have a Yuumi though, so Cuzz is like, oh yeah. Didn't see the cat there.
But overall, big win. KT holds their turret. Gumayusi is forced to ghost. Keria uses both summoners. They're down to Yuumi ultimate as well. And in a minute and 20, the next Drake spawns. Sure, Soul's not as good as it could have been, but as KT, you're still going to be playing for it nonetheless. And I gotta say, I'm really impressed. Cuzz to me in particular coming through as, again, kind of the glue keeping the team together, continuously making proactive plays, going in on the Wukong, forcing summoners. And do gotta say, this crown from BDD, I know it makes sense into the dive on the enemy team, but especially as Soul AP Source on your team, I do think that you can really get a lot of mileage out of going all in on damage, right? Yeah. Like, really try and one-tap everyone that comes within your reach. That's not going to be the case. Will be more survivable, but do wonder, as we saw with Chovy a couple of days ago, whether that is not going to influence some of the later team fights for KT.
Especially because if you die, like let's say you don't have crowns so you get blown up, I mean, you have a Jax and a Zeri to potentially, you know, carry the fight from there. So
yeah.
You also have better range than everybody on the other side of the rift, right? Other than, you know, maybe Sivir boomerangs. And also you have a Lulu to potentially keep you alive. So there's like a lot of other ways that you could have survived outside of a crown. So I definitely do agree with you. There also are a lot of ways for T1 to proc that with the Galio and the Sivir specifically. So we'll have to wait and see just how much value that crown can get. We're always looking at crowns as, you know, was it correct, was it not? And we'll just have to wait and see how much value you can get out of it as the third Drake of the game, this Ocean Drake, has spawned.
Pretty good setup here from KT, a lot of vision around. The one thing, yeah, they're not going to fight. TP comes in, Zeus says we're going to instead trade gold.
Nope, too clean from Cuzz. You knew it was, there was a chance. There was a sneaky Vi in the bush. Not meant to be.
Well done. Very nice combo there, making sure that he gets the Q off. A lot of damage, especially with Syndra already finished. Ensuring that they get that. T1, I think the right call to make without a flanking position or without someone out of position. Straight up front to backing into KT that has a lead currently is very, very tough. Although the lead is slowly dwindling, so it's going to be more about what is the position either of these two teams can find. But KT is really playing by the book, right? Like, look at the vision setup they had around that dragon. The only thing they were lacking was bot side prio, but with the amount of vision that they have, they don't really have to be afraid nonetheless. And it's another look that we've seen from T1 in a while. They're perfectly capable of playing on the back foot, but really hats off to KT here in the first game, looking like they came very well prepared for today's match.
It's pretty clear to see that they're not going to back down or take it easy against T1.
You can't, yeah.
And by taking it easy, I mean, you know,
relatively.
Kind of essentially assuming that you're not going to have a great time against them. So, you know, you don't fight fire with fire. You kind of like sit back on your hind legs and play more defensively, I suppose, is the better way to describe it. But, yeah, might enter a small lull state here. Has been a little bit of time before we have had one of these. But, you know, got a couple of hyper carries in the mid lane, farming. And as long as Cuzz doesn't go for any dives, doesn't look like KT are looking for any plays as they have set up kind of a 1-3-1 at this point in time.
So what's new with you, Veldas? I know, but you know, maybe you want to enlighten. We haven't had any time on the casting desk yet together, so you know, we got a little bit of LCK downtime.
Well,
Hold up.
You say that, and here comes Oner, and this is the dive comp, but aiming is totally fine. As Faker's ult got canceled, there is the exhaust, immediately gets cleansed. Aiming still having to go forward. He will eventually go down, right? Right, he's gonna go down, no, maybe he will not. He is going to fight through to the end. And just because of that, T1 used everything to try to get the Zeri, and they could not kill her. KT take down 4, and now they will take the Baron.
That might be a breaking point in this game here for KT. Beautifully done. T1 identified we need to kill Zeri. Unfortunately for them, KT is aware of this fact. Beautiful response. As we get into the replay later on, like, I really want to highlight how well of a job KT did keeping their Zeri alive. This is, of course, in full vision, and the amount of distance that's traveled is big, but as you pointed out already, that cancel from Cuzz on Faker might be the difference maker. Because that is what buys aiming those crucial seconds, allows him to stay alive throughout all of this.
Huge scat of the week, too, from BDD. Keeps him alive at the very end of his health bar. And if he dies, I mean, they don't quite have the damage.
I mean, I think even if, at that point, if he dies,
maybe, yeah.
might still be fine. But now it's not just a win, it's a complete blowout. And just really well done by KT. Playing, maybe that was all the elaborate bait. Aiming, of course, had his summoners available. They had Lulu nearby. And now, we're down to Baron buff. The possible soul spawning in a minute and a half. And for T1, I do think now your options are going to be fairly limited unless KT makes really big mispositions.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to chew through them and actually take down Zeri.
You know what Cuzz is going to spend all that extra gold on is a stopwatch.
Because he listens to
he's been listening to the English broad. No, yes. But I think it's a good idea, especially when you're the one guy on the team that's kind of having to frontline for the team, right? You're ahead. You're going to be in there first before anyone else, unless maybe Jax is joining. And even in that case, you're going to be setting it up. So just buys you that little bit of extra survivability in some of these team fights. As we do have the Seraphs finished second here for BDD. So extremely survivable is this Syndra.
Yeah, he ain't dying. BDD will be completely fine. Also note the itemization, especially on the top half of the map. Kiin here and Cuzz both going for steel caps. Because one of the downsides of Galio, especially if you don't get acceleration in early to mid game, is that his damage pretty negligible. Everfrost and Zhonya's very good in terms of utility as
Oh no, T1 tries to group up to try to fight this one. Now Oner is going to continue in. He immediately goes down. A little bit of hesitation from the T1 side, and KT's like, really? You want to fight us here? I don't know about that, buddy. As now Kiin gets low, but they're just getting baited into this. KT are wiping the floor with T1 in this first one.
And KT going to be able to push through here at the very least. Inhibitors are going to be broken, might even be looking towards the end of the game if they really want to try it. It's early still.
They have Baron.
Could be looking for it.
Still 30 seconds of Baron. I think you go for it.
I agree.
Just don't overstep your bounds. Siege the turrets. See if he can make it happen. They're going to get this scat of the week onto Faker, who is looking for the engage. He is going to get a pretty nice taunt on the aiming here. Who's still alive? He's still alive again as both Nexus turrets go down. And KT are looking to back at the right time, but here comes the TP from the side of T1. Point. This is why teams generally take it safely when going for these early pushes, as now here comes the Galio. The entire dive is going to hit the front line alone. Do they have enough? In goes Kiin, as this Counter-Strike is only going to hit one, but Gnar will take him down. So T1 do get 2 extra kills on the backside of this fight.
And that's okay, it keeps them in the game, but in of itself, not enough. And KT really tried to go for it. In the end, not going to be able to actually get the finish, but you sense the desperation here from T1. They're like, we got to try something. We can't just sit here, watch our base be taken. Unfortunately, in their desperation, they try to hard focus Kiin, who says, I am Jax, I have Counter-Strike. Good luck with that one. And a Lulu to add. Aiming smells a couple of extra kills, and especially in these tight jungle corridors with the lead that KT has, it's really hard to play out for T1. And this is a great goal from T1. I do think KT very clearly doesn't have the cooldowns, doesn't have the resets to try and fight this. But what do you actually end up getting? You deny them the soul, which is nice. You get the bounty, and you get 2 kills. It's good, but it's not. It doesn't put you back in the game just yet, right? Like you get, as you point out, the shutdown, get a little bit of gold, but you're still almost 6k gold behind. So gonna need a couple more of
now
those.
There's 4 stopwatches for KT. Oner's just dead again. I believe he's getting pretty close, aiming very, very close to taking him down. Does have to flash to get it, but still going to be worthwhile. As Oner once again kind of left out to dry. It's kind of what it looked like in the last fight as well, just trying to make a stand. You know, T1 needs to dive, but not looking too clean. As in goes Faker, he's being kited. The Mega Gnar gets stopwatch aiming! Puts on the Nikes and says, no thank you. I will not be getting taunted tonight. I will not be getting Mega Gnar tonight. As there's stopwatch number 2. Faker goes in alone. He's trying to create a front line here for Guma and Keria, but it doesn't look like it's going to work. KT will be taking down the Nexus here in game number 1.
Straight up 2v2 against Guma and Keria with Zeri and Lulu run over the bot lane of T1. And then on the other end, Cuzz, look at this. He did more damage than both his solo laners, right? Like really,
he did so
that to me
much for the team.
Was I went for aiming. Spoiler alert, but I was really I had Cuzz first, and then went to aiming, and then went to Cuzz.
Cuzz
was
should
very
get
tough.
some votes for sure.
Oh, he should. Yeah.